Host Mr. Jordan Roman.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Good to be here.
Yeah, he is in the building. And we have our producer who's sitting behind the desk. I think she's gonna come and join us. Our producer and proprietor of this nice little place. Tay is gonna come out and join us on the couch in a second, so she get things set up. I'm gonna make sure we got the comments growing. Yep, we do. Let me mute my phone. The comments. Oh, cool.
I need to start reading those comments in real time.
Yes, read the comments. Those comments be interesting. You gotta start reading them in real time. I guarantee.
No, I read them after the show.
Well, we had the incumbent county supervisor here.
Yeah,
that's running, and then we the week before that we had her opponent, and the folks wasn't really liking her whole demeanor, and the comments were just going like wow.
Mm-hmm.
And
they have so this is not the district that I'm running in, but this is District 7 for the county supervisor. So it's a pretty, I would say, contested race. Some stuff has happened.
It's
some
spicy.
drama, spicy. Spicy, that's a good word.
Yeah, spicy.
Yeah.
So with us on the couch, we have Representative Francesca Hong. She told me to call her Fran. So going forward, y'all gonna hear me call her Fran because that's what she said. That's cool. I'll roll with that. You are a representative from the Assembly.
Yes.
Correct. What area do you represent?
Madison, Wisconsin.
Madison.
Hometown.
Oh wow.
Born and
Okay.
raised, still there.
Oh right.
Sorry, you want to make sure your mic is just a little bit, just so we can make sure
we
want people to hear you tonight.
Yes.
I want to be heard.
Yes. And Fran is a gubernatorial candidate for the going to be open governor seat this November. The primaries takes place in August.
11th.
And you are one of 20, right? Candidates on the Democratic side.
Feels like 100.
Yeah.
Right. I'm one of 7.
You're one of 7. Okay. I thought it was like 20 something people. They was named so many names. I couldn't keep up with folks running because I think this is the first time the seat is open in a while, right? I think the last time it was open, that's when we elected.
Yeah, Mr. Walker.
Yeah.
Those were dark times.
And we are, yes, very dark times. And we're still coming out of those dark times with him. But yeah. So first question we're going to start off with, let me pull that up. I'm going to give you some softball questions. Then we're going to get into the real stuff. No, I'm just playing.
I have one. How do you feel running?
Yeah. How do you feel?
I'm feeling all right. Most days it's I'm maintaining, and today I was able to get some good meetings in, and I had limited call time, so I am feeling Jordan knows what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and earlier in the week, I get to hang out with my kiddo a couple days a week, and so today's one of those days.
Okay.
I got one more question because I cook.
And before you go into the actual question, we want to give Fran, I'm being informal, an opportunity to tell us who she is, how she got into the Assembly, and kind of your backstory. I'm very interested because I didn't hear about you until earlier this year. Or I'm sorry, not this year, last year when you were jumping in, and you've been shooting out like a rocket the last few months.
Polls have her.
She's up right there,
Polls have you above the fray.
So I'm interested in that journey and how that's been. But tell us your inception story and how you got here today.
Love it. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be back. I really love Sherman Phoenix and all of the amazing entrepreneurs here. And if folks haven't been, especially near Madison, you should definitely come.
Calm down.
So as I said, born and raised in Madison. Very proud daughter of Korean immigrants. So my parents came here in the late 80s to pursue education. Dad is still working at UW. He's a sociologist, and my mom's a music teacher.
At UW?
She's at elementary school in Madison.
okay,
Yeah, she
okay.
taught in the neighboring district from where I grew up and where my son is growing up now. She did choir in Korea, and she came here. And as soon as my sister and I were old enough to stay home alone, which back then was like 8, she went back to school, got her bachelor's in general music, and then taught in public schools for over 10 years.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I grew up, playing a lot of soccer, knowing and realizing that I am in a lot of spaces where there aren't a lot of folks who look like me.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out soccer is one of them. And, the plan after high school was to go to school and go to, I wanted to become an anchor on SportsCenter.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah, replace Scott Van Pelt. And
he's still going strong.
Yeah.
he was actually the speaker, graduation speaker for
Okay.
UW not too long ago. But I found a different path. Ended up dropping out of college and pursuing cooking. And so I worked as a line cook at as many restaurants as I could to learn from chefs. Became an executive chef at 23 at a restaurant called 43 North.
Wow.
And
In Madison?
in Madison.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm a restaurant worker still. Service industry is me through and through. I'm really proud to be a service industry worker. And then I opened my restaurant in 2016. Same year I had my kiddo. Always remind folks, do not open a restaurant and have a baby in the same year. Do not recommend. And then, in 2016, that was another time of chaos and crisis.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Which means there's a lot of grief in the community. And that's when I started organizing. I brought a group of amazing women, all in the service industry, baristas, cooks, restaurant owners. We literally sat around the table with tea and baked goods, trying to figure out how we were going to move forward in a time where we felt like our rights were at risk. And we did what so many communities do every day. They come together, they share their time and talent. Ours was, we held a bake sale and we raised over $20,000 for Planned Parenthood. And it's when I started realizing that my restaurant needed to be a third space, a place where folks could gather, a place where, you could go in solo for lunch, or you could come in and have a celebration, or you could come in and have breakups. The most epic, can I swear?
Wait, break up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We're not censored.
First dates. We had a couple celebrate their wedding and do photos there, but we also had an epic breakup where one of my favorite servers, I was working on the line. She came into the kitchen. She was like, "You will not guess what just happened." And I was like, "What's up?" This guy and girl, they're breaking up. And she just told him, "You're fucking breaking up with me at fucking Moore's Ramen." And I was like, that is epic.
That's the story. We want to see in that story.
Right.
So yeah, restaurants can be a space of community organizing, celebrations, and breakups. And then in 2020, another big time of chaos and crisis, we had to shut down our restaurant. I was really, I was feeling a lot of grief and a lot of fear. It's a lot of restaurant workers, very vulnerable. The service industry is one of the low barrier to entry industries. So part-time workers, young workers, immigrant workers. And I was trying to help folks get unemployment insurance, try to figure out how I could advocate for small independent restaurants. We knew we would be first to close, last to open. Started writing to Mark Pocan, Tammy Baldwin, our mayor, our county exec, just trying to say, look, what is our plan? How are we going to work together? And I started yelling on Twitter a lot at Robin Boggs because the state was failing us and they were putting our health at risk. They were not supporting small business owners or folks who do direct services work. And so
they made it seem like they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. A lot of the times with Republicans, they pretend to be helping you, but they have virtually no interest in actually improving people's lives. So the seat that I ran for was actually Chris Taylor's seat. So Judge Taylor is my predecessor.
Okay.
Oh, wow, that's full.
Wow.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And
Wow.
she, and I think because I was a community organizer, mom and restaurant owner, folks were ready for a different kind of leadership. And I think that actually comes because when there is so much chaos and grief and crisis, there's actually an opportunity for change. I think a lot of folks think that we want more stability, but actually folks don't want to go back to what was happening. So I was asked to run for office. They say you got to ask a woman at least 6 times before she'll run for office. And that was the case with me. And we ran a pretty unconventional campaign because it was COVID times. I did a lot of Zoom events, but what was important to me was making government accessible. A lot of folks who voted for me, they didn't know who their state rep was, why the state legislature and the decisions there are so consequential in our lives. And I brought in folks who were running for school board, who were in the county board, who do direct services work and work in nonprofits. And it was important for me to share with them and to the constituency, why we got to know who's on our council and who's on our school board. And I think, that resonated with the community, engaging, learning more about what their elected reps did and what they needed to do. So was elected. I won a 7-way primary.
Wow.
Was elected to the legislature.
What was the vote win for that?
Right.
I think I was at just over 28%.
Okay.
And then the gentleman who came in after was around 26. Okay. And became it only took till 2020 to get our first Asian American legislator.
That's dope. Congratulations.
I mean, that's what's up. Yeah. That's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah.
So,
and in the legislature since.
Okay. Question for you too, in regards to that. You say you are a Democrat.
Yes.
What led to you becoming aligned with the Democratic Party?
I've always voted for Democrats because I think I assumed that our values always aligned and they were looking out for working folks. I mentioned before I was line cooking, and that was often, more often than not, I was making minimum wage. I remember my first raise, I got $13 an hour. Thought that was pretty sick. But, I voted for Obama. I voted, whoever had the D next to their name in local races on the ballot. And, my parents became citizen in 2007. So Obama was the first person they voted for.
Wow.
So being, aligned with Democrats, I think it was both just what I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I thought that's who I was supposed to be.
And you said your parents were immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads me to another question. We see this immigration policy the Republican Party is trying to enter. How does that make you feel, seeing that?
Well, I'll start with, the Department of Homeland Security was born out of discrimination, Islamophobia. It was right after 9/11, and it was created to stoke fear and more discrimination, because what the right and Republicans always do is they displace the blame. They pit our communities against one another so that we are distracted from the destruction that they are doing. So ICE, especially right now under the Trump regime, they are enforcers of fascism. They are enforcers of the policies coming down from the federal government right now. I don't think it's the agencies, because normally, just like in the state, our legislative, the state agencies, Department of Health and Services, Department of Natural Resources, they are the ones implementing the laws. So if ICE is out here policing, surveilling, terrorizing communities, they are, and we've got a fascist federal government, they are the enforcers of fascism. So what they are doing is not keeping our communities safe. They're terrorizing folks. And I think for my parents, even my sister who lives in Minneapolis, to then say, do we need to start carrying our passports around? And I was like, we are in a deep place of privilege, but we don't know. And I think it is further exacerbating a lot of the hate and discrimination. And we don't have the mindset of, we're distracted from keeping the mindset of community, of a village. And we go into scarcity and individualism, which means that, especially when resources are scarce, and I don't just mean money, I mean like opportunity for folks to be able to honor their potential and do what they want to do, live the life they want. We instead go into how can we hoard and protect ourselves, and not see our neighbors as as neighbors.
That's deep.
No, I that's really good. I mean, I think you mentioned it, hit it head on, is the leadership, under other administrations where you mentioned the departments oversee compliance and regulations and how those actors are supposed to act.
Yeah.
But now when you see a failure of leadership from the top, and it just empowers those people who we are supposed to trust to be in those positions, now they can just act like they want to without impunity, and it's a direct reflection of the leadership we have right now at the top, which is despicable.
It is, and the types of laws they want to pass, like what's happening with the so-called SAVE Act. This isn't just anti-immigrant legislation; it's anti-women. It's anti. They don't want people of color to vote. They want to make it so that our society becomes a homogenous society committed to white Christian nationalism. And they are trying to dismantle the agencies, because when you've got, rogue agencies like ICE, when you have, literally a criminal and a rapist as the president, enforcing laws, it becomes like ambiguous. What does that even mean? What is law? Like, what are the laws right now? And how we respond to that, how we respond to fascism, it has to be building community and trusting one another, because especially when, law enforcement, they have to answer to the federal government, the state government, it is going to take mass movement and organizing to be able to resist that. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm running for governor, is because this moment right now demands a movement. And as an organizer, as a service industry worker, a mom, we have to have folks who are like of the people, right? I'm an everyday person. I'm a renter. Really not looking forward to what my electric bill is going to be next month.
I just paid mine today.
Right?
Insurance is coming up soon. Today. Wait, tomorrow. Yeah.
Tomorrow's the first of the month.
Tomorrow's first of the month.
I got the reminder today to pay rent, to check this, check the bank account, make sure that phone bills pay. My son does karate. That is a not so fun auto withdrawal from my bank account. But he loves it.
You still do that? I had to stop doing that.
Auto pay.
Yeah, I was like, what are
But that's, movements are built by organized power of organizing people. I think also the organized power of labor, but it requires us to build trusted relationships. Organizing at its core is that. It's simple, but it's also really messy and complicated, because building relationships is complicated. So the more I think folks we have, elected folks that we have who, you see a little bit of yourself in. And we've got candidates right now in the Democratic candidates right now in the primary who I think a lot of different people see themselves in. So that's why spirited primary is good for democracy.
Absolutely.
But for me, a movement moment means that you have an organizer and someone who believes in that organizing and is relatable to help grow the movement.
Absolutely.
To be more specific, how do you believe how would your leadership be different from any other governor in the past?
Being a service industry worker and restaurant worker, I believe in service first, in people first. And my philosophy with leadership is one that should foster leadership in others. And that requires collaboration. And I'm going to work my ass off with the organizing apparatus that we have to make sure we have a democratic trifecta to actually implement and write our values into law. Like that excites me. But you know, we're still going to be limited in resources. It is still going to require collaboration. And I'm in the assembly, the people's house, but we're also kind of the bottom of the barrel, especially in split government, where the governor's team and the Republicans are doing a lot of the negotiating because it's split. And the assembly, we are the most accessible to the people. You know? And I want to make sure that legislators, all of them, feel like their governor is accessible. Want to make sure that we're bringing in new perspectives and folks who haven't always had access to being in decision-making space.
Can we all clap for that? New voices. Let's clap for new voices. Thank you so much for that.
Nothing wrong with that either.
No,
People
but
seem like they have a problem with
like
that.
if you kind of think about, you know, where, especially in politics, you look for the internships, you kind of try to chart your path. If you work in campaigns, it's who you know. So much of it is networking. I think because I come from something that is so removed from political spaces, you know, hospitality, that I want us to start thinking differently about how we can run government so that it is a force of good. And that means, you know, can we have activists working in more of our state agencies? Can we help legislators become organizers? Can we think about, you know, there's a lot of gatekeeping in politics.
Absolutely.
And like fucking unwritten rules. So many unwritten rules.
You sure you didn't watch last week's show?
I think she did. I think she did.
I'm sorry, I did not, but I did do homework about, you know, how I watched a little bit of some other interviews that y'all have done.
Okay.
Were you speaking to my heart on today?
Yeah.
I got to speak to your heart to try to change your mind. We got to start changing hearts and minds.
Yes.
But that's the type of leadership I want to bring, because again, going back to, and I love alliteration, so I'm going to go with crisis, chaos, and change. We have to make sure that we don't use the same playbook that got us here.
Oh, yeah.
That old playbook from 1995 that we keep regurgitating every cycle.
It doesn't work.
Every
It doesn't work.
cycle.
It's not working.
Exactly.
And it's gotten us where we are, you know,
Yeah.
exactly where we are now, with, you know, this repeat of fascism that has creeped itself back into the White House and into Congress and into our federal Supreme Court. You know, it's just like, come on,
the
guys.
Legislature, it's been like a little petri dish for,
I like that.
you know, a lot of the bills that have passed in the state legislature that Republicans have introduced and just jammed through, they're what I call cookie cutter bills. So these big conservative think tanks will write the bills, and legislators will basically just get a copy and they put Wisconsin on it and then pass it. And folks then watch what happens in Wisconsin after these laws pass. And we become this like breeding ground for conservatism and extremism.
But I think there is, I disagree with how they roll it out, but there is some strategy to that. And I don't like it, but I do understand that from a nationwide strategy, they have their cookie cutter playbook in place and say, we're going to build our team across the nation. We're going to spread this conservatism across. And they've been doing this for 40, 50, 60, 80 years, right? And sometimes I get really frustrated with the Democratic Party, which I also am a card-carrying, loving Democrat, but we don't come up with strategies sometimes, or at least we don't cohesively and collectively push a cohesive strategy across the finish line.
Yes, yes. And that's a major problem. Yes. Like even I look at John Fetterman, you know, senator out of, you know, Philly, what he's doing. I'm like, dude, like really? Like we ain't got time for this splitting stuff. Like we need to be in lockstep together pushing this stuff through. But then as Jordan just said, we're not cohesive.
It's that lockstep, right? So it's get in line or get out. And I think that it's so militaristic, but it's effective. And that's how Voss ruled in the legislature. And he drew the line and said, you fall in line or you get out. And he had the funds and the relationships to make or break if you're going to stay in the legislature or not. Beyond the gerrymandering, right?
Right.
Republicans could be complacent as fuck because they didn't have to worry about getting reelected
Right.
because they were in a district that was drawn to make sure that they continued to be elected.
Yeah, stayed in, yeah.
But I think it gets harder for Dems to be militaristic and in lockstep. And I don't fault them for this. We are more democratic, right?
And we have a bigger tent too.
We have
Yeah,
a bigger
yeah, we do.
tent,
We definitely have a tent.
allegedly.
Yeah.
I'll get back to that later.
Okay. Explain.
Yeah.
But we are too often in lockstep with the most privileged, the corporations. There's a reason why some folks are labeled corporatists or corporate Democrats. And they think that in order to hold on to power, that we have to be able to compete with this dark money, the millions, billions that folks like the Ulines, Koch brothers, Diane Hendricks here in Wisconsin, John Menard, that we have to be able to compete with that just through fundraising. And then with Citizens United, it just became this disgusting cesspool of who can buy our elections. But I think right now we're in a moment, and I say this a lot now, where it can be the time for the many and not the money, which is why organizing is so important.
Yeah.
And I think we have to be in lockstep and bold about being bold. And more folks are recognizing how fucking rigged the system is. That it doesn't work for working class folks. And I'm talking even suburban, comfortable, people who thought they were middle class. It's there isn't a middle class anymore in oligarchy.
Right.
I was talking to a donor today, or potential donor. I don't know if I actually got him to be a donor, but he's like, we're feeling our grocery bills go up by $100 and we're privileged. And I'm like, yes, this is more and more folks are realizing that we are not in a system that will serve working class people. Yeah. And until there is we uproot that, we're going to keep bouncing back to this place.
Yeah. So question on some economic things that we got going on here in Wisconsin. What is your plan to make Wisconsin more affordable for everyday folks? You said you were a renter. I think that resonates with a lot of folks. A lot of folks do rent. What would be your plan?
We gotta lower property taxes.
Ooh.
We have to enact stronger tenant protections.
Music to my ears.
A right to counsel. Make sure that we're holding slumlords accountable. That renters, in a time of crisis, and especially if there's more ice insurgencies where people are scared to leave their homes or go to work, where we should have a moratorium on evictions. You shouldn't be able to evict someone in a time of crisis. And lowering property taxes, that comes with we've introduced a bill that would help lower property taxes by up to 44%. And it is increasing the tax on billionaires by just under 1% and creating another tax bracket for the highest earners after that.
That's a Wisconsin bill.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is one I introduced a little over a month ago now.
Okay.
And for that money then to go into helping fund our schools, specifically special education, to then prevent districts from having to go to referenda where they need to basically go to the taxpayer for revenue to help fund schools by raising property taxes. We have to move towards a new school funding formula. And then, especially going broader into housing now, we have to make it easier to build. And the thing that is sometimes the most costly with new construction is time. When you're going into whether or not it's permitting and you've got projects that are stalled because there aren't enough workers. What if there was consistent, predictable financing that came from a public bank? North Dakota has one. They're proposing a public bank in the city of San Francisco, their council. And this public bank would not be a bank that is trying to, rip folks off and just fund their own profits and their own pocketbooks. This would be in partnership with credit unions. It would be run by private, like folks who work in the private sector banking, and you can have reliable funding for affordable housing projects. You can help small business owners or people who are looking to purchase properties and become responsible landlords to have low interest rate financing, because that is a big part of housing, is where is that financing going to come from? Do we have to keep going to the taxpayers, and have tax incremental districts? So I think there's multiple layers here as to how we can help with housing costs, lower property taxes, and look at bigger picture, more like sustainable options. And again, North Dakota has a public bank. We got public groceries. There's, I would say, there's public groceries, if you think about it, in in the military. Subsidized. The government subsidizes a lot through the military. But we have to start thinking bigger and bolder so that, again, we're not going back to that same playbook where we might bounce back to these times.
You said something that just rang some music in my ear when you said lower property tax. Because I am a homeowner here in Milwaukee, and my property taxes went up over $100-something. So I think that will resonate with a lot of folks. And so you said you came up with this bill. Has it made it out of committee yet?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. What resistance are you facing?
The legislature is essentially gavelled out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now I understand
And
that they might be able to come back in. They're going to take a special.
Yes,
Okay.
the governor could call a special session.
Okay.
Technically the majority party could bring us back into session too.
Okay.
But there is a lot of revenue that we can bring in to the state and make investments that are good for working class people if we increase taxes on the ultra rich and eliminate corporate subsidies and loopholes that allow mega corporations to protect their profits as opposed to workers and working people.
Okay. And as governor, what do you think would be some of your hardest decisions that you'll have to make as far as economic growth to achieve that?
It will be incrementalism versus
Incrementalism.
going for.
Now you're in Jordan's lane there.
Yeah.
Going for the golden egg, if you will.
Yeah.
Where we want to propose universal childcare and paid leave for all and healthy school meals for all, where every child, doesn't matter what type of school you go to, school for the visually impaired, private school, public school, every kid would have a free breakfast and lunch, a healthy breakfast and lunch while they're in school. The incrementalism part, that the hardest decisions will be those negotiations to figure out how we would phase it in, how aggressive we are in getting to, the full enactment of the bill that I would like as governor. But I think it's important to go in to negotiate from a place of strength when you set your expectations and your agenda is clear. Universal childcare, paid leave for all, funding our public schools. So we lowered property taxes, and looking at making sure that the statutes that we're putting in are ones that are going to eliminate those corporate subsidies. And I think we will get pushback on taxing the rich.
From what party this is?
It could be from legislators from
both parties.
all parts of the state.
Yeah.
That represent, more Democratic districts or Republican districts.
And I think that's, having newer, fresh perspectives coming in to push the status quo and to come in and challenge and say, again, we can't keep doing this the same way. We can't incrementally try to fix our way out of these problems. We're at a precipice now where if we don't go bigger, if we don't go with something that's going to shock and awe, then we're going to end up 10 steps behind where we are right now. And I think when you look across the country, you mentioned North Dakota, I'm always frustrated by how Wisconsin, we're in a region and every other state around us are doing innovative things around revenue sharing or bringing in additional revenues. And we're still just stuck. Exactly. You know, we talked about that, you know, billions of dollars in revenue that could be spread out to do a lot of these different initiatives that we're lacking in need, right? And for some reason, Wisconsin just is sitting by and not taking on and looking across the region and saying, well, Illinois is doing this and Michigan is doing this in housing, and Minnesota and Indianapolis are running around Milwaukee and Madison in circles because they're being innovative and creative and taking on the best practice that we see across the country.
There is such a lack of creativity in government and even campaigning. And I'll say, under gerrymandered maps and Republican authoritarian rule, it has been very difficult to actually pass bills that the majority of Wisconsinites support, like funding our schools. The Marquette polls showing how many folks support full legalization of cannabis. But you're absolutely right. We say incrementalism is irresponsible. And as someone who is, I still feel like an outsider sometimes in politics because I came in from a very different industry and I approached working in the legislature with, you know, what happens outside of the walls of the Capitol, I think is just as important, sometimes even more important than the legislating that's happening inside the marble walls. How can I make government more accessible to everyday folks? And that is a combination of educating folks, but also making sure people don't feel like you're talking at them. Democrats, we have this bad habit of like trying to present like a 10-point PowerPoint, like 10-page PowerPoint to folks about how we came to this and what we need to do differently when folks are just, they're feeling that struggle right now.
Speaker Jeffries.
You don't want to hear about the history of like how we came to this.
Right.
Folks just
we already know
what you're going to do.
We're living it.
differently.
Right. We know. We're in
What's
there.
your plan?
Right.
And then we don't deliver at a fast enough pace in which people feel like the material conditions of their lives are changing.
Yeah.
But it's like, if we go bold and we fund special education at 90%, and we say like one of the first 5 things we're going to do is legalize cannabis, and it'll be full legalization and ensuring that some of our most, make sure there's expungement for low-level drug crimes, make sure that the folks who have been most disproportionately impacted and negatively harmed by cannabis, weed being illegal, that they have the opportunities to pursue opening a small business. Right. And this is Black and brown folks.
Right.
We go for the big, and people start feeling change because government, there's a lot of bureaucracy. It's really fucking slow to get things done. But if we are aggressive and unapologetic, and we take that, what may be seen as a risk, but folks feel that something has changed, it's likely that they will vote for you again because it's Democrats in power, and this is what changed in my life. And don't tell me we can't do it, because during COVID, folks got the checks, right? We got our, what do we?
Sounds like we'll be getting
the stimulus.
We'll be getting
yes, thank you,
Stimmies.
And they said, child tax credit. I was like, you put the word tax into a policy, like folks are either it's gonna go over folks' head, or they're just gonna be worried that you're trying to tax them. We had healthy school meals for all during COVID. There was a waiver, and every child in school got to use that waiver for free breakfast and lunch. During World War II, we had universal childcare because there weren't enough women to go into the workforce because they had kids at home. A lot of the men went to go serve in the army. It's not as simple,
right?
But it takes an amount of political will, ignoring some of the folks who are making decisions based on their political future. And if you have built up political capital, you fucking better be ready to burn it, to make sure that people feel government not invading their lives, taking away their freedoms, but something good and something improving in their lives because of a government decision. And that's how you start building trust back in government, trust with politicians, and people recognize that, my tax dollars are going to something that everyone is using and it's good for me, because ultimately you gotta make people feel special and that something good is happening just to you.
Yeah.
So just real quick, you mentioned it risking it all with the political capital. Again, we're at a point in this economy, in this world now, if you're not willing to risk it right now, we are at fault to lose it tomorrow, like right away. So all this grandstanding and trying to figure out what the next step is. No, we are in crisis right now. We need to stabilize right now. We need to act big and boldly right now, because tomorrow is not going to be promised, or we're going to be in a complete fascist state, which is, we're almost there anyway. So I think that's very important, that we push that needle and have leaders in place who are going to push that message and that narrative across the board.
And that is going to require organizing for policy too. So let's folks on the ground in New York right now. It is, you can't just trust the elected officials to say this is what we're going to do and it's going to be good for you. You need folks on the ground going to doors, going to parties, going to restaurants, and talking about how this will improve your life. You have to campaign and you have to organize around the policy. So instead of having it be a person that we're trying to get elected, it is a policy that you're trying to make popular and help folks understand that it is, oh, this might be something that's really good for me. Or why should I care about funding schools when I don't have a kid in schools? And it's like, you have folks on the ground talking about school funding connected to property taxes. You have folks on the ground talking about, look, here's a pamphlet around why healthy school meals are going to help increase test scores. Because it turns out when kids aren't hungry, they can focus and they learn better.
So wait a minute, let me stick a pin right there. So you're saying, as a candidate, you would go into the voter and asking them questions?
I'm even doing it during call time.
So they don't have to like seek you out for anything like that?
I'm trying to be as accessible as possible. Because we talked about gatekeeping, right?
Yeah.
I know I'm not going to be super accessible forever. My campaign team's already a little nervous about me answering DMs on Instagram, but like I can't.
You do that?
I don't. I can't do all the platforms,
Right.
but I do try to take at least an hour at the end of the day to answer as many questions as I can.
Okay.
And it has it's been folks inviting me to their town, and I'm like, okay, can you help us build it? Can you find a location? Like, what is special about your town? What should I know about it before I go there? Like, folks are eager to get engaged, and that's, again, going back to relationship building. If I'm accessible, I hope they start thinking differently about holding electeds accountable, but also that I'm somebody that wants to work with you, which means that I'm fighting alongside you, and I'm not just out here saying I'm fighting for you.
Okay. I know you got something brewing over.
No, so if you had to prioritize one area, education, mental health, or public safety, which one would you choose first and why?
I think education is public safety.
Mm.
I think when we invest in our kids and beyond just our public schools, but think about if we had more youth community centers that weren't just relying on philanthropy and private funding, right? If we had spaces that are supposed to be where we can gather and build community, and our kids deserve that too. So when we invest in education, of course, we should be centering our kids. They are like, who else is going to take care of us when we're older?
Exactly.
Like when people don't want to invest in kids, I'm like, how do you think society works? But that, when we're able to provide spaces beyond just the classroom for our kids, that to me is public safety, because we need more places where our kids feel safe.
Yep.
And then they can see and honor potential, and they see opportunities, and that there's a place for them. And so for me, funding education is connected to so many other issues. And when we fund education and especially make sure that where there's more people going in to become school psychologists, to become social workers, to then be, have a great public education and then go and pursue becoming a teacher, a psychiatrist, a doctor, and then going back to your community to give back because you know that this is who helped make you who you are.
Yeah.
So for me, mental health, public safety, public education, these are all connected. But when we make that investment in education, I think that payoff, that return on investment is going to be for everyone.
Okay.
So are you familiar? So we had an incident this weekend or this weekend, Sunday. Have you heard? We had the takeovers in Milwaukee where a bunch of youth, were they everywhere now?
Atlanta, Chicago, yeah.
Oh, they're nationwide. These kids are like, talk about organization.
And I just found that out this morning listening to 101.7.
But locally here in Milwaukee, I'm old, so I ain't hear about all that other stuff. But
I have a 22-year-old daughter.
So
I'm in a loop.
And it goes to exactly what you were saying. We've disinvested in our education, in our mental health services, in our youth programming for our kids 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, right? I think they started when I was a senior in high school. That's when they were really starting to cut the budget and whatnot. But now we're seeing a direct correlation between what happened with the takeovers with our youth because of a systemic failure around the decrease in funding and investment in those areas and those spaces. And our kids really have nothing and nowhere to go. And they're feeling disenfranchised, and they're feeling like the system doesn't care about them, and they're feeling that they don't have the support they need, right?
Affordable.
Right.
Like,
so
is college even a place for me now?
Exactly. So what are they supposed to do other than, hey, we're going to go take over Bayshore Mall and act amok over there because there's nothing really else to do. And we're telling you that we're frustrated and we need something else. And I feel like it's going to take something like that nationwide for us to really get the point and say, we have to start reinvesting in our kids and our youth now, because 20 years from now, we can't afford to have that happen again.
And I think it's really important for folks to realize that we need to build partnerships with our youth. Because, I mean, my kiddos already given me some like pre-teen angst and like, feeling a lot of feelings.
How old is your boy?
He's 9.
He's 9. Okay.
Already pre-teen angst?
Yeah, we got
forces within him.
He's been a kid who's like pretty good about, and this is crazy because I do not come from a culture where you talk about your emotions. I come from suppress that shit down, figure it out on your own. But he's very good at telling me how he feels, and he's got a lot of feelings right now. But I think if we look at and build relationships with our youth and they feel like we're a partner and we're not trying to dictate their lives, there are more opportunities then to hear from them directly on what they need in things like community centers. I also think we have to talk about what emerging adulthood, because was I ready for the world at 18? I took a gap year. I dropped out of college. I didn't quite, I'm very lucky that I found the path of, becoming a chef. But I didn't know that's what I wanted to do until I got to college, that I wasn't supposed to be there. A lot of our youth don't have that time or the to experience something, an opportunity to say, this isn't actually what I want to do, or this is what I want to do. And I look at folks who, between 17 to 20, 22, that's why we have to invest more in our trades, right? Our technical colleges who have also been disinvested. Like we have training programs to become electricians, I think, cut from Madison College. We're not investing. There aren't enough people to teach those courses. So it's investment in youth from like birth to, I would argue, like 22. I have
a 21-year-old, and she'll be 22 in May. She's going want to be a doctor, which is, it's amazing. But I also have a 16-year-old who he does night school. He straight up told me, I'm gonna do what I need to do, grade wise and whatever. But I ain't trying to go to no, regular school when I'm in college. Once I graduate, he wants to get into the trades. We do need to be more invested in that because we need plumbers, we need electricians.
For sure.
That's not something AI is going to do.
At all,
And we have a crumbling infrastructure. So we need people who are going to be able to man that and take care and maintenance our country moving forward in the 21st century.
Painters, welders.
We need that.
And they make good jobs. And good money.
Yeah. And now these kids have the knowledgeability to go out here and do it. We just have to find, like you said, these spaces and opportunities for us to push that and then push them towards that, because a lot of them have it up here already.
And the time to advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I think building organizing skills, and there's amazing trainings actually, led by Black and brown women. I just talked to a person who leads one of these organizations, and she's like, yeah, we just had all these trainings. And I was like, for what? They're like, on leadership, on birth equity, on, to be more equity and justice minded, but learning how to advocate for that earlier so that you continue to grow with that mindset, especially in the age of like, everyone wants to fucking dismantle DEI.
And we know why that is. Not realizing too when they're doing that, they're harming themselves.
Also,
I think they do realize that
are part of inequity and inclusion. We tend to gloss over that fact.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying, I think they do realize that they're hurting themselves, but they are some of them, not all of them, are so hateful and selfish that they are willing to take less at the expense of their own selves because they don't want others to gain. And I think that is very prominent in today's age and today's society, especially again with the leadership that we have top, encouraging that.
We got to make the pie bigger instead of thinking that somebody else is taking your slice.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm feeling progressive vibes. Am I right? Am my discernment right? I'm feeling that.
I am running as a Democratic Socialist on the Democratic ticket.
Okay.
And I have always voted for Democrats. And I caucus with the Democrats in the legislature. I caucus with the Democratic Socialists. And because I come from hospitality, service first, people first, I've also built some bridges for folks who may be, hesitant or afraid of the scary S word.
Right. People get afraid of that. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of it.
For me, being like progressive is pragmatic.
Right. And what you again, this is what our fourth or fifth conversation we've had. And until you meet and talk to you, people think like, oh, she's just some great socialist who's gonna freebie for everybody. I'm like, but listen to what she's saying. She hasn't said anything that's not pragmatic or practical.
At all.
It makes sense. It's right. So
said.
we get these notions of how interpretation of what we think people are, perspective of what we think people are based on socialists or communists or whatever those different things. That people, if you ask them what a socialist and a communist is, 90% of them doesn't know what they are anyway.
At all.
The way I look, everyone's calling me communist anyway.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Right. But you have to listen to it. And I want everybody to don't just hear one thing and say, oh, she's just a socialist or a commie or whatever it is. No, listen to what she's saying. Listen to how she's articulated. Listen to what she's talking about. Building bridges and being that conduit from one to the other where you can build the relationships, and then look at social policy, right? And that's relational, that impacts everybody across the political spectrum. I think that is where we need to get to, because this hyper partisan nonsense is bullshit, and we have to get away from it.
Grade A bullshit.
Right.
You mentioned Big Tent earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll, because the question, I'm going to just answer it because I'm going to get it, is like, how do you win the rest of Wisconsin as a socialist when you
That's
come
what
up?
we're
Like,
gonna
how
ask
do you
you
talk
to.
to folks?
Yeah.
You mean, how do you win the white vote?
The white rule.
Back over feelings over here.
the white rule vote.
Yeah.
Because you got to win them rule votes. So the white rule.
Right.
How do you think that you would explain yourself to that socioeconomic?
They're hurting now.
They're hurting.
I have the privilege, and I think this is why it does have to be someone like me running as a Democratic Socialist, is I get to show up in spaces as the single mom, as the line cook, as someone who had a bartending shift just a couple months ago, as the former small business owner, as the daughter of an immigrant. I am not just defined by being a Democratic Socialist. And for me, being a Democratic Socialist means my policies that I fight for are rooted in the socialist principles of democracy, fairness, and human rights. It's why I've been so vocal against the genocide in Gaza. It's why I want to tax the billionaires. It's why I think, when it comes to democracy, we do have to make sure that democracy is actually accessible to everyone. It is not a democracy when you only have the establishment, the privilege, the corporatist telling you that you have a say when all the decisions are being made by them.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like how, and I feel like folks generally like me when they meet me.
I think you're dope as hell.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
But it's like I have to break out of like,
I'm loving
we're
this.
trying to go to as many Democratic County Party meetings as we can. And then when I go to some of those, because I've been fortunate enough to grow a platform, I've got folks who have never gone to a Democratic meeting before showing up at these meetings so that they could talk to me and grill me. I've got socialists and also independents who show up to these Dem County Party meetings, and the Democrats are stoked because they're like new faces, young faces. And then you also got to meet people where they're not expecting to meet a gubernatorial candidate, a dive bar, a bowling alley, a cranberry festival. And, the first thing I did when I got elected back in August of 2020 is I got the fuck out of Dane County. And I started helping or meeting other candidates for the assembly who were running in more rural areas, who were running in red suburban areas or purple districts, to get a better understanding of like who their potential new constituents would be, what their communities are like. And if we are going to actually become Big Tent, if we're going to win back the folks who sat out in 2024, people who certainly don't think that government could do anything for them now, we got to have folks who are willing to build a coalition and be community minded first and take a stance on things like AI data centers. It's now been like, I just read this yesterday. There's a reverend in Janesville who has voted Republican pretty much his whole life. But what's happening in Janesville right now, they're about to put to referenda the construction of a data center on an old GM plant where the land there is incredibly contaminated. And the developer is going to come in and help remediate the area so that they can build the center, and then it can be, it's for the community because we're taking the pollution out. But folks, the majority of people right now, the public opinion has shifted around data centers, and there's bipartisan opposition to them. And he said that because of my bill putting a pause on data centers or a moratorium on the construction of new data centers, that my candidacy interested him. We have folks who have identified as the Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump voter come to our events and talk to me. And I have to be everywhere. I want to keep hosting town halls where I'm taking questions for like an hour.
Town halls, you do those?
We have to.
I'm open to Madison.
How often are you doing your town hall?
I have to, like a county party meeting, that most of the folks who go to the, who are volunteers for the Dem County Party,
Gotcha.
people in the community, it can be an hour and a half, a couple times a week. And it's not, I'm not going to over exaggerate, it's not every week, but where I go, I want to make sure I'm taking questions for at least an hour or so. I was in Wapaka last weekend, right after No Kings. And, I probably took questions for well over an hour and a half.
Hey, you brought up No Kings. I have a question on that.
But before that, hold on.
Okay.
So I want to just fill you in. So, and I'm glad you're talking about, and this is the accessibility part.
Yeah.
There's frustration for some people, some constituents, maybe in this room or not, around their elected leadership saying that it is more the responsibility of the constituent to seek out the candidate or the representative versus the candidate making themselves more available to the constituency. And there was a robust conversation around
that face
last week.
Point
so,
around when
so,
y'all
that,
get
so,
to y'all.
so that's the context why we're just
That's
snickering about
Go
it.
back and watch last week's show, then you'll really get to,
Because I agree with you. Like,
you get some content.
I'm a candidate now, so my job is to be as accessible, especially people don't know me.
Right.
And you're like a rising star again. Like people didn't know you, so what you have to do is get in front of the people where they are. Don't ask them to come see you or come to your office or come to your campaign. I like that you are prominently positioning yourself outside, being vulnerable, talking to the people about your vision, And I think that's what most leaders need to do. If you're an incumbent, you need to do that. If you've been in office for 20 years, you need to do that. And especially because we were talking about last week, the population has changed and gotten so young. They're not used to the way it was or where it used to be, where you had to seek out, right? These people are more curious. They know more. They have more information at their fingertips. So they're asking questions and they're challenging authority. And you have to be ready as an elder or an experienced person to take that, not as a sign of disrespect, but as the new population is seeking information differently. So that's where we're coming from.
Copy that.
Yes.
It's good political strategy to be accessible because folks remember the conversation with their electeds, especially if they feel like they're actually being heard.
Yeah.
And we have to build trust within, and trust as like a very, small t, because it's a big word, with your systems of government, again, with your elected officials. And if you're putting that responsibility solely on the people in the constituency to seek you out, that is going to discourage them from understanding the process or knowing what their rights are. And we are fighting apathy. We're fighting disillusionment. People who just like, my vote's not going to change shit. I don't fucking want to talk about politics. How are we not only reaching those folks, but making sure that they stay in coalition with us, that they stay engaged? And so I think that's, a real detriment to building. And I don't know if this person was a Democrat or not, but like if we want to build support for Democrats, we have to make sure that our big tent includes young people, includes Democratic Socialists. We have to be radically welcoming because we do not have the luxury to tell folks, and be elitist around government anymore. And I think you poll young people right now, turns out they're not thrilled with Democrats or Republicans, but they're like, Democratic socialism? I mean, this right now has what either party voted for working for you?
Right.
Is your government working for you? Or are you working and your government is idle standing by?
And that's what it looks like to a lot of them. They're just, Fran, you're making it really hard for me right now.
Can we schedule a debate with them all?
What kind
that would be dope.
Yeah,
right.
Did that happen
with these guys? I don't know if they've done debates. Have you guys done?
There was a forum or something, right?
Yes, there will be a couple forums coming up.
Okay.
And then the debate, I believe, will be scheduled for June.
Okay.
Yeah,
we definitely to that.
We definitely will try to make our way into that some type of way. Because So how much time do we have?
Go ahead.
We're just rolling with the flow.
On the place.
How much time do you have?
Like I said,
good?
my kiddo's very he's being well taken care of right now.
Okay,
he's
perfect.
probably like, I hope mom doesn't come so I can play more video games with my friend.
Keep her.
Hey, got you. Right. Keep her occupied. So about the No Kings protest we had over the weekend, where did you go to any?
I went to Milwaukee.
Okay.
And then I drove straight to Wapaka from Milwaukee.
Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of things online about a lot of these protests. A lot of people saying, okay, the protests are good or whatever, but how are these translating into votes? What's your take on that? Because we have seen these protests like Trump 1.0. First time there was these massive protests. And then
you're talking about the pink pussy hats.
Yes, exactly.
For him in masses the second time around.
Exactly. Right. So then it's like, okay, what's really going on here? So do you feel that the protests are effective to make any kind of change?
Yes.
Okay. How do you feel that way?
They are effective because we do have to show and not just tell.
Okay.
So it's social proof of like when you see streets filled with people that you can say, hey, there's a lot of folks who are thinking like me that the Trump regime is fucked up.
Yeah.
And so that it is effective in getting folks to kind of feel less isolated. I remember the first No Kings I went to last fall, where I met folks, and it was in rural communities, people who this was their first protest. And they were just like, this woman cried when I talked to her about, I'm really proud of you for coming out here. And she's like, so many of my family voted for him, and they are, I think they're in danger now. What we have to make sure that they remain effective by doing the organizing work afterwards and demanding that the people who are at the protest be consistent. And being consistent means that you are helping to organize in your community more folks to become active. And organizing and protesting, it can look different ways. Not everyone can be out in the streets. It's definitely not safe for everyone to be out in the streets. It's, immigrants, Black and brown folks. I think with most of these protests being like majority white folks is okay.
Yeah.
Very okay.
Yeah.
And then it's us going back and saying, all right, there's ways that you can stay activated in the community. You don't have to have a ton of time and money, but you can help organize a meal train. You can get checked into what is the mutual aid work happening in your community. You can bring together, young people or folks that share your values, just like, what happened out of bringing women together in 2016 to then do a bake sale and raise money for Planned Parenthood. You can reach out to folks who are of means and have them give money to an immigrant justice organization. You can get involved politically. You can do canvassing. You can run for office. You can try to help local candidates who are often not well resourced and have to fight against statewide or even countywide elections. And so that social proof piece of feeling like, okay, there's a lot more people who understand how fucked up this is. And then those folks in the streets also have the responsibility of being consistent and making sure that folks in their communities are getting active. But because it is going to take mass movement to defeat fascism, but that mass movement doesn't just consist of protest. It is going to require everyone to realize that my government may not keep me safe, so I better figure out how to do community safety. How do we, as community members, keep each other safe? And that right now, I think, is as simple as getting to know your neighbor. I don't know. I've been nervous to introduce myself to my neighbor, but I truly think it can start with that. And so the effectiveness of these protests, they're at different levels, but in terms of helping folks see that there are folks willing to engage and be out in the streets, that we're showing more people, do I think we need to give ourselves, I want us to be humble about having gone to the protest. I'm not here for all of the celebrating that you went. I would like to see less celebrating and more organizing after you went.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't have anything else.
Nor do I.
I think we're going to
You were
wrap.
great.
Yeah.
Can you tell the folks though that want to find some information out on you? Where can they go to seek you out?
You can go to francescahong.com.
Okay.
Follow us on social media at Francesca Hong WI. And I'm going to ask folks today, if you do choose to support a candidate with your dollars, that you do half to the candidate and half to either an immigrant justice organization or a nonprofit that is doing good work in your community, that they're on the ground and are underappreciated. Try to split your contributions today.
All right. That wraps it. We got again Representative Francesca Hong, who told me to call her friend, but she is running for governor. She's one of 7 and one of 2 out of the 7 that have come to our our little shack here. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So before we do that, I want to say thank you. You've been so gracious and humble in our interactions. It's been a pleasure meeting you. I am a fan. I didn't know I was a biggest fan. We talked about earlier, like where's she coming up? Thank you. And it's after having conversation with you the first time, I mean, just a few weeks ago, you told me some stuff, some background. I think I asked you, like, do you have some pointers or whatnot? And that made me go to my campaign manager, like, we gotta change this shit up. we gotta change some of this stuff around messaging, around all that stuff. And I think that is a reflection on just who you are, your authenticity, your passion for people and social justice and community. So I want to say thank you for being a support. And I really do think you're a rising star. No matter what happens, I think you are a rising star in Wisconsin.
Definitely.
And your future is bright, bright, bright. And this is from someone who pays a lot of attention to the politics. I think your future is bright.
I appreciate you saying that, but it's only going to be bright if it's bright for all working class people, and that's the socialist in me talking. But one more note is if you're thinking about running for office, the qualifications I think are skewed. It's about how you build relationships. People right now, voters are savvy. They can smell bullshit. Be yourself. Facts. Be relatable. Shed elitism. Shed that ego. And I think, being community minded will help you be a stronger candidate.
What my hoodie say? Be you.
Yeah, be you. Well, thank you so much. So we do have just a couple quick announcements. So who we have next week? Sarah Rodriguez is next week.
Sarah Rodriguez? Okay.
And then I think we have... Okay.
Next week will be the 7th, right?
Yeah. Okay.
That's the day of that's the primary election. So
that's right. Primary election.
Yeah.
Yes. So I do want to just make that announcement. Make sure you guys are early voting.
Please.
You have until the end of day Sunday, I believe, to early vote in the state of Wisconsin. There are multiple locations across the city of Milwaukee. I just voted today at Zeiler Hall downtown. So make sure you're taking the time. If you want to go out next Tuesday, you should, but take the time to go vote today. I went there today and there was like 10 people in line downtown around like noon. Actually like 10. So take that, people. Go get your vote. It's an important election. We have our Supreme Court justices and a number of local elections across the state or across the city at least. So please take that time to do that.
You can find out where there's an early vote location near you at myvote.wi.gov. You can also, or please make sure if you have an absentee ballot that you drop it off at your clerk's office or mail it in like tomorrow.
Yeah. Yes.
And
there's drop boxes at the different libraries too. So I'm one that used the drop boxes. So we do have different drop boxes at the libraries for those of you that absentee vote like myself.
Yeah. I do have one more announcement.
Okay,
sorry. Go ahead, man. So since I am the candidate, I'm the resident show. Yeah. So my launch party, everybody, is next week, the 11th, Saturday at 6:30 at IVR in Brown Deer, in Good Hope Road. So we want you guys to come out and support the campaign. We'll be talking more in the show about my platform and everything as the year continues to go on. But I'm excited. So launch party for Jordan Roman next week, April 11th, 6:30 IVR bar. So I hope you guys see you there. Support the campaign too. And I like that half and half, but support the campaign.
Right. And then tomorrow, April 1st, is actually a year for me with Facts Over Feelings.
Yes.
Yes. And we're gonna do something special, but I think we've gotten special enough here with what the platform has turned out to and what we've grown from. Because at first it was just myself. Now I have a co-host and got a producer. We got guests and we got candidates coming on the show talking about their campaigns and all that fun stuff.
I think we got the 2 top front runners who've been in our show, right?
Yeah.
Like, who else got the 2 top front runners in their show? I'm just saying. We got them on the show. So
this has been y'all. So thank y'all for tuning in for this year and helping us and helping me grow. So thank you. And I have to again shout out to our producer and owner, Tay, who's Miss Logan to you on Facebook, because she started all this. She made all this happen. She hit me up and saying, "Hey, Dorian, I'm opening up a podcast studio. I want you to come and have your own show, and this is gonna be yours. You can do whatever you want, and I can help you out with flyers and all that stuff. And here we are a year later. So thanks. right. Donate today. So we can keep this going. But thank you all again tonight. Remember, I can't say it enough. Just use that power, that ballot box, you all. A lot of this stuff is happening because a lot of folks chose not to vote and chose to cede our power. But our power is in that ballot box, and I will keep harping on that. I will keep saying that we need to go out here and make sure we're registered, get our IDs. DMV is giving away free IDs. There's no excuse. Go get it. Let's get it done. Let's make it happen. So on that note, again, thank you, Representative Hong, who is my friend now, Fran. And thank you for coming out with us. And you guys be safe, be careful, and keep your eyes open. And good night.
Hi, Mom.